Welcome to Farm Connections with your host, Dan Hoffman.
Farm Connections has traveled to Featherstone Farms in Rushford, Minnesota. We've talked to Jack in the past about vegetables, but today the owner of Featherstone Farms, Jack Cadine, will tell us a little bit about solar. Jack, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So you're an innovator in vegetables, but also in energy. Why did you go to solar?
Coming out of flooding and relocating here to this area, experiencing disruptions of weather one sort or another, huge impacts on our business. And at some point I just got tired of complaining about the weather. I put two and two together, I connect the dots, you read the science, you realize this is about early stage climate change. And it became clear to me that I needed to be part of the solution rather than just belly aching about the results. And so this is where, for me, renewable energy, solar panels, ground source geothermal, other things really got to be something that we were going to put our money where our mouth was.
Well, it's great to be a good citizen and set a good example, but every farm and small business operator knows at certain points, all of a sudden bottom line is what we're all about.
Yes.
How did this impact you economically?
Well, certainly in the upfront it was expensive. You know, it was over $250,000 system that we installed in 2011. So there was upfront costs that we found ways to manage. At the time, with federal and state grants, it looked to be about a 14-year payback. We subsequently received another grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the REAP program, which has brought the payback down to somewhat lower than 7 years. So we're halfway into that period. Within just a very short time, this will be paying back and earning us money, saving us money, rather than just costing us debt service.
Did you use any other agencies in Minnesota to help with the project?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we had a loan, a low interest loan from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture through Rural Finance Authority, and great to work with the MDA folks, and then lots of local investors, friends of the farm that lent money on positive terms for us to be able to make it slightly more affordable.
So did you have to change much to put a solar system in?
Good question. We had to start from scratch in terms of the design process. Turns out the building we were going to put the panels on was not large enough, and it was not structurally stiff enough to support the panels. We began with research about the building itself, about our existing electrical system, a whole set of legal and financial questions, negotiations with our utility about the buyback rates, engineering things of all sorts, things way beyond the level of your average vegetable grower. So I was very lucky enough to have a lot of people helping me in the thing, researching different aspects, running the numbers, this scenario and that. A lot of it happened during a growing season, so I was out managing crops and keeping the business turning even as this work was going on. So it was a distraction. I'll be honest, it was a distraction for a period of time, but I think one that is will pay back many times over in the life of the array.
Well, again, you're thinking long-term, which is great. In addition to the REAP program with the USDA, were there other agencies or programs that can offer help on that expertise?
I think there are certainly commercial enterprise of all sorts. Even 5 years ago when we were doing this, it was still a kind of a burgeoning industry. I don't think there were as many commercial and public consultants and others to help coach a guy through this. I'm sure this day and age would be a lot easier in that way.
Jack, you mentioned a 7-year payback. Is that at the current electrical rates or projected increases?
I think that certainly includes a projection of the cost of power over time. So this is looking forward on actual rates over the payback period of the project.
Jack, has the solar system and the returns on investment met your expectations?
Oh, absolutely. When we run the numbers and look at the cost of the investment, the payback, the savings, the actual income that we get from selling power back to the utility certain times of year when we're not consuming that much here, it has definitely met our expectations. I think the manufacturers were a little bit projected a little bit on the downside in terms of the productive capacity. These are American-made panels, and they've produced every bit and as much or more than we had hoped that they would.
Nice. And on a day when it's cloudy or there's snow, I'm sure our audience is going to want to know, how to keep the lights on.
Right. Well, we are a grid tie-in system here, so we're into the grid here when we're not storing power here in batteries in any way. So whatever we produce is consumed here or goes to the utility. If we're not producing a surplus, then we buy back power from the utility. If we're producing a surplus, we sell it to the utility.
Jack, thanks so much for sharing. Wonderful.
My pleasure. Thanks again for your interest.